In this video, I'm going to show you 9 music appreciation resources that will help you teach the background of jazz music in your music appreciation classes. Hi, I'm Jooya from Jooya Teaching Resources, and I'm a music teacher with over 20 years of experience in the grades 7 to 12 music classroom. And in this video, I'm going to show you 9 amazing music appreciation resources that will help you to teach the background of jazz music. Whether you're a teacher or just someone who loves jazz music, these resources will give you everything you need to know about this history of this incredible musical genre. Let's get started. Nine music appreciation resources to teach the background of jazz music. So welcome. And as I said, we're going to go through 9 different resources that you can use in your music classes this month. If you're watching this in real time, this is April, and in the States, they usually have Jazz Music Month in April. So that's why I'm sharing this today. So hopefully you'll find some resources that are really helpful for you while you're teaching this subject with your kids this April. Hi, I'm Jooya from Jooya Teaching Resources. My mission is to help busy music teachers like you in classrooms around the world with the resources you need to teach music appreciation to inspire the next generation of musicians. That's my mission, and hopefully these resources about jazz music are going to help inspire the next generation of musicians to appreciate what jazz music is. So there's a few things we're going to go through. So we're going to look very briefly at what defines jazz music, another brief music history lesson. Okay, there's, as I said, brief. There's no way I could cover it in one video. I'm going to share with you 3 helpful websites, 2 really helpful YouTube channels, and then 4 resources from my store that will also help you to teach jazz music this April. Understanding the background of jazz music is essential for all music students who want to fully appreciate and enjoy this genre. Having an appreciation for the history and impact that jazz music has had on popular music will help your music students to see that the music they enjoy listening to has its origins in the musical revolution of jazz music. Jazz music is a rich and complex genre that has influenced popular music around the world. Its origins date back to the late 19th century, and its evolution has been shaped by a diverse range of cultural and social factors. For middle school music and general music teachers, teaching the background of jazz music can be a fun and engaging way to introduce students to music history, jazz instruments, and jazz music appreciation. In this blog post or this video, we'll explore several music appreciation resources that will help you teach the background of jazz music. Now, I said these is just for starting jazz. There's no way that you could actually cover all that is jazz music in one lesson or in 1 month. Okay, there's just no way. There's people that do jazz music as a degree, so they study it for years. Okay, so there's no way you could do that in 1 month. But this is just meant to introduce kids to what is jazz music and help to broaden their horizons about what the music that they like to listen to had its origins somewhere else. So jazz music definition. To fully appreciate jazz music, it is important to not only know the background of jazz music, but also what defines it as a musical style or genre. Jazz music is a style and genre of music that often includes improvisation, where musicians make up new melodies on the spot. It usually has a steady beat and uses instruments like the trumpet, saxophone, piano, and drums, plus many more depending on the style or genre. There are several subgenres or types of jazz music, and they all have different stylistic features. Some jazz music can be upbeat and lively, or slow and mellow, and it often encourages listeners to tap their feet or dance along. Jazz music has its origins in the United States in the late 19th and 20th centuries and has since become a popular and influential genre of music around the world. Now, it's important to note that jazz music, even though it started back then in the late 19th century, it's still a very popular form of music today. It's not something that came and went, okay? It's something that came and it certainly influenced so many other styles that have come after it, but it's still here. So that's one of the things about jazz music. It is still here, and a jazz musician and the skills they have are truly remarkable. Like watching it. One of my favorite jazz musos, being an Aussie, is James Morrison, the trumpeter. I've been lucky enough to see him perform quite a few times, and he is just amazing, so entertaining as well. But just the fact that he can do what he does as he does it just blows my mind. As I said, I've seen him perform a number of times, and every time it's something slightly different, and he's just amazing. But that's what jazz does, and it awakens something in you, and it sparks something in you. Jazz music history and a brief, and I do mean brief, background of jazz music. To help your music students understand the background of jazz music, they will need to know some jazz music history. The following information is a very brief summary of jazz music history, but is enough to get you started when studying jazz music. So jazz music has its rich history that began in the late 19th century in New Orleans. Now, some people debate that one, Louisiana. It was a blend of African rhythms and European harmonies that were played by African-American musicians in bars and dance halls. In the 1920s, jazz music gained popularity and spread across the United States, becoming a major influence in music. Jazz music has evolved over the years, and today it is still enjoyed by many people all over the world. Jazz music is known for its improvisation, swing rhythms, quite important that one, and unique style, making it a fundamental part of music history. And the thing is, because of so many different styles of jazz music, there are so many different unique features. And that's one of the things you could start studying this, and you could do a different style of jazz, I think, for a whole year with your classes if you really wanted to. I think they might not like you very much if you did that, but you could. So when studying jazz music, it is important that your music students understand the impact and significance that it has had on popular music of today. Having an appreciation of the background of jazz music will help to broaden the music listening skills of your music students. And that's the key. And look, I'll show you some resources later, but when I do rock music, which I introduce that in year 8 normally, we always start with beginnings of rock, what I call the beginnings of rock, which is the unit, as I said, I'll show you later, which is African music and jazz music, because those things are what sparked rhythm and blues, true rhythm and blues, not R&B of today, rhythm and blues, and that then went on to be rock music, okay, and then everything else that followed after. Alrighty, so that's why I like to start with that and where I start with it, but I'll talk about that a bit more later. But as I said, jazz music is a really important thing for kids to understand. Jazz music has had a significant influence on popular music styles of today. Many popular music genres, such as rock, hip-hop, and R&B, have incorporated elements of jazz into their music. Jazz music's improvisation and syncopation have been used in the creation of new melodies and rhythms, giving birth to new sounds that are now commonplace in popular music. And we know that those rhythms, those unique rhythms, have found their way into so many different styles of popular music. And the other thing is about improvisation. A good old rock guitar solo has its origins and its basis in jazz music, and that's where those things come from. So it's really important, as I said, for kids to understand that improvisation, even in hip-hop and rap, that improvisation came from jazz. Okay, even though jazz musos weren't necessarily improvising a vocal line, they were certainly improvising melodies when it comes to scat and all those sorts of things. But that's where all this sort of stuff had its origins first. So jazz also introduced the concept of using instruments in new and unique ways, which has led to the creation of new sounds and techniques in modern music. Jazz music's influence can be heard in almost every type of music today, making it an essential part of music history and an ongoing source of inspiration for musicians of all genres. And I suppose in terms of the new sounds, thanks to jazz music, we have the electric guitar, because before that, when you're like the jazz big bands, which is what they had, the guitar, which was just a good old acoustic one, I'm pointing because that's it, I've got a few on my wall, it naturally could not get above or may be louder than a trumpet or a saxophone, which are naturally really loud instruments. So they had to work out ways how they were going to amplify it. And yes, of course, they started with microphones, but then they realized, well, maybe we could put a microphone in the guitar, and the rest is history, as they say. But again, that led to so many other different sounds. Okay. And again, that exploration. So a jazz musician doesn't just improvise with a melody, they improvise with the sounds they can create and the timbres they can create with their instrument. And again, if I'm thinking of James Morrison, the Australian trumpeter, jazz trumpeter, the sounds he can get out of that one instrument is amazing. Is amazing. If you can hear the train going past, ignore it. It's been one of those days. So let's get into the resources so that you can start delving into them. Now, these sites, okay, I'm not going to go to the site to show you, but you can go there yourself, go and have a look and see what's going to be appropriate for your kids, because it depends on what age group you're teaching to as to what resources and what you're wanting to use. But as I said, I've got 3 jazz music websites that are that you could use in your classroom. So the following websites will really help. So there's Jazz in America, the Smithsonian Jazz, and PBS Jazz. So Jazz in America, this site was created by the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz. Try saying that 10 times fast. It has a comprehensive overview of the background of jazz music and jazz music history. This site has a lot of resources to use in class, such as videos, timelines, audio recordings, and more. There's a lot there, okay? And again, depending on what you want to look at and depending on where you want to start, with jazz or maybe continue with jazz, there's lots there to have a look. And as I said, there's the link there. You can do that. But honestly, if you type in Jazz in America in Google search, you'll come up with that site really easily. The next site, the second site, is the Smithsonian Jazz Music one. Now, this is a site that's collaboration between 2 museum sites. Well, it was as of the time of recording. So it's the Smithsonian and the National Museum of American History. The site itself features lots of jazz history artifacts. So obviously, like from a museum point of view, things that actually like actual physical objects, okay, and interactive exhibits that show students the history of jazz music as well as the instruments used in jazz music. So again, if you type in the Google search Smithsonian Jazz Music, you'll be able to get there. Or of course, you could, pause this and copy it and do that. This last website, PBS Jazz, this site features a documentary series about jazz music. Now, like there's a lot on this site. Again, you might want to preview if you wanted to show something. Think about what you're actually wanting to your kids to see, what you want them to actually know before you actually show the whole lot. Because I think you could, again, go down a rabbit hole watching so much stuff here, but just focus on something. So decide on something that you want to teach and then have a look in there, find what you like, and then use that in the classroom. But again, it's the PBS Jazz. If you search that, you'll get this site, and Ken Burns is in there. So don't stress out that that name's supposed to be in that site. All right, so 2 YouTube channels for you to use in your classroom. So the following YouTube channels are a great place to find jazz music being performed by the best in the business. And the thing I love about using YouTube in my music classroom is that kids can see, especially when it's a live recording, kids can see the instrument being used in real time. They can see how that instrument's being played. They can see the effort and the expression and the emotion that the musician is putting into the music. And that's what I love about using YouTube in the classroom. But these couple of sites are really good. So as I said, tracing the recordings as jazz music analysis. So you might want to actually do a listening analysis, lesson focus on this. Now, the difficulty is when you're doing a listening lesson, when they can see it, it makes it much easier, obviously, to identify the instruments, alrighty. But sometimes it's good to watch it, turn it off, okay, turn the visuals off and just listen to it so then you can actually do the listening analysis, because I find sometimes my kids just get stuck glued to the screen watching, and then they don't do the actual activity that I want them to do in terms of the listening lesson. So this first channel is from Jazz at the Lincoln Center, and it would be best for older students because there's lots of amazing jazz music there. And again, there's so much to choose from. It's not funny. So you need to narrow it down and think about what you want to actually teach. But again, Jazz at the Lincoln Center YouTube channel, it has lots and lots of stuff there. Now, the Jazz Lincoln Center, now it's a site that I was trying to access and get information from, but honestly, I kept going around in circles. So I found this actually is a much better way to use the information from the Jazz at the Lincoln Centre, is to go to their YouTube channel and watch the videos. Now, this second channel is again another great site, a great playlist, but it might be for younger students. But I'll talk about that in a minute because I have used it with older kids as well. So this second YouTube channel features the Jazz for Kids album by the jazz great Wynton Marsalis. Each song in the album or the playlist is based on a popular nursery rhyme or children's song, making the jazz music version of the song accessible by younger students. Now, I say that with a caveat because I have played some of these songs with my year 11 and 12 students when we've been looking at jazz music, because they can hear the snippets of the actual nursery rhyme and how then they listened for what the actual artist has done in terms of improvising and extending on that melody. And honestly, it's a great thing. And the other thing is too, if you want to, you can get yourself you can do comparisons. So you might want to do a really simple nursery rhyme compared to the jazz version. And that's another fantastic listening lesson with older students. They'll actually really enjoy it. But was like this jazz album was created specifically for children. So Jazz for Kids album by Wynton Marsalis. I said there's the YouTube link there. And there's the whole album is actually on there in the playlist. You can choose which one you want to do. Some of the songs are really long. I mean, like 8 minutes, which is probably too long for a little person, especially if you're teaching littlies. But if you're teaching, like, if you can, choose a song that's, that has enough of what you want to listen to in it. Probably not the whole song. You'll find it too much for your kids. Okay, so they're the free stuff that you can get out there. So I said the 3 websites and the 2 YouTube channels, which can make things really easy for you. But if you want to make it even easier, I've got some resources that will actually help you. So I've got 4 music classroom resources for Jazz Music Month. So if you want to make it easier for yourself to teach all things jazz music, then why not try some of the following resources that I've got in my Teachers Pay Teacher store. So the Jazz Music Mini Bundle, this bundle includes a set of easy to use, low prep resources for the middle school music classroom. And that's what it was designed for. That's what I created these worksheets for my year 7 and 8 kids. Okay. In the Jazz Music Mini Bundle are jazz musician history worksheets, which is a really simple research in jazz muso and find the information. And again, there's so many ways you can use that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Then the jazz music listening worksheets. Again, there's like a stack of worksheets that you can choose from. And I've given you a list of songs that you might want to use. And you can just pick a song, pick a listening worksheet and go for your life. Okay. Or you could even have, like for that one, you could choose one song and have kids work on the different worksheets all at the same time, and then come back and report to each other what did they find about that, because it's all based on the elements of music. So you might have one group doing melody, one doing rhythm, one doing timbre, whatever it is, each of the worksheets, get them to listen, get them to write down their answers, come with that together, and then discuss their analysis at the end. They will learn so much more from each other that way. Also in that little bundle is a jazz music bulletin board. Okay, so the people that are in the bulletin board are the same that are in the music history worksheets, okay, and the music composition project. Now, I do that particular music composition project usually with my older kids, year 9s and 10s. I give them, when I do a jazz music unit, I always give them a few different songs to choose from, and they have to arrange it. Okay, they have to work out how they're going to do it. And I give them like stipulations. So, you can't have any doubling of instruments, and each person must have a solo and all that sort of stuff. So that's fun. And songs to use for that composition project, if you're wanting to do that as a jazz musician activity, jazz music activity, I should say, things like Satin Doll, When the Saints Go Marching In. I'm drawing a blank now. There's stacks I usually use. Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, like all those sorts of songs. But you can find stacks. There's heaps out there. You could even give them nursery rhymes if you want to base it on what you've been listening with the Wynton Marsalis album. So, lots of ways to do this. So this is the actual bundle. As you can see, it's got the bulletin board, the worksheets, muso worksheets, as well as listening worksheets and the songwriting assignment. And that would be enough to keep you going for the month. That really would. That mini bundle, there's enough there to keep you going for the month. So as you can see, the worksheets, as I said, for those, again, there's about 29 or 30 in there. You could give one to each kid, get them to actually research it, and again, maybe talk in small groups about their different jazz musicians that they were there. So you can see like Benny Goodman, Charlie Parker, there's Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong, I can't remember them all, heaps in there. And the listening worksheets, again, 30 famous musicians to listen and analyze. So I give you lots and lots of different things. Actually, I thought it was only 10, but there must be 30 songs in there. So many different ones you could use. Like, again, choose what's going to work for your kids. Then the bulletin board, as you see, and the songwriting assignment. So there's some other resources that you might want to like. So that's only one. There's the African and Jazz Music unit of work, which I sort of talked about earlier. This unit starts with the African music itself and African instruments. Now, when I do this unit, I usually start this in the beginning of the year with my year 8s, and we start with African music and we start with djembes and learning lots of African rhythms. And then we move on to other things, and then we move on to jazz instruments, okay, jazz music, all that sort of stuff to go. It sort of goes nicely into that. And then from there, once they've done jazz music, I move into rock, and it's sort of a nice segue, goes nicely together. So as I said, there's lots of those things about African music at first up, and then it moves on to lessons about jazz music history, jazz music instruments, and jazz music appreciation in terms of listening. It includes a composition assignment and performance assignment, as well as some links to music for your students to listen and study. Now, the composition and performance assignment is different to the one I was just talking there. So that one there is the African music ensemble assignment. Again, I give them a couple of different African folk melodies to use, and then they have to arrange it. So again, it still ties in with the jazz, because, you know, depending on what the ability level of your kids, some of them are going to do it quite simple, some could actually do it quite complex. So here's the unit. Okay, and you can see like jazz instruments map of Africa. Now here in Australia, like especially in my state, one of the things that that we use is a thing called 8 Ways. It's an Aboriginal pedagogy, and the sorry, I've got something on my face. But one of the things that they like us to do is always connect where we're talking about with a map. So where, like, it's called land links, but where is it that we're talking about? And it's really helpful for kids to understand, like, especially here in Australia, where is Africa in relation to Australia? Where is America in relation to Australia? Where are these parts of the world? Because, you know, kids can become quite insular and not realize that there's a big wide world and where things come from. And so that's why I like to include maps there. You might think, why is there always a map? That is why. So the Jazz Musician Bundle is another one, and Jazz Musician Posters is another fantastic resource that go hand in hand. So these two resources go hand in hand and are perfect for using as a jazz music research assignment with your music students. There are 24 jazz musicians in the bundle, so you can choose jazz musicians that will appeal to your music students for a whole class lesson instruction. So you might want to do this together, or try assigning each student a different musician and then have your students present their research as a speech, video, or even a podcast presentation. Now, those jazz musician worksheets, again, they have like simple things in terms of jazz, like just biography stuff about the jazz musician. But then I give you, for each musician, 5 different songs to choose from, and then with links, and then the elements of music. So you might, depending on what you're doing, you might only be doing, say you may have only done melody and rhythm in your class. Well, then you only use those worksheets, those listening worksheets. You choose what you don't have to do them all. You only choose what you need to do. And again, there's so many different ways to do that. So as you can see, this is the cover. So there's 24 different jazz musicians in there. And then you can see that there's the worksheets, the elements of music, listening pages. Okay, so dynamics, melody, structure, form, everything's in there. Okay, everything's in there. And also, if you're looking for different ways to actually use this, either look at this video here on this YouTube channel or go to the blog post, which is called 7 Creative Research of Music Assessment Ideas for Your Music Class. So I talk about the different ways that you can take one of those assignments, one of those 24, and actually make it into an assessment. So I'm not going to go into that here because I want you to go and watch that one there. I said 7 different ways to do it. So lots of ideas for you. And the last thing is the posters that are part of that belong or go with the 24 different jazz musicians are a versatile resource that you can use with your music classes. There is a full color version of each jazz musician that you can choose to print and display on your classroom walls. Now, the thing is about these particular posters, along with all the other posters I've got in my thing, which is the pop musicians, the jazz musicians, the classical ones, and the female composers, they all have a similar look. Okay, so it doesn't, everything looks the same in terms of it makes each musician have the same sort of significance. So it's not making like classical composers up here and jazz musicians or pop musicians down here. There's no hierarchy. I've deliberately made them look similar. So it doesn't matter what musician you're studying or composer you're studying, kids understand that music is music. Okay, and they get that there. So you can choose to use the color versions that way. Imagine if you're doing like a musician or composer of the month or a performer of the month or a week, you can do that. But there's also a black and white version. So if you don't have access to color printers, you might want to actually print onto colored paper, alrighty, that will go with your classroom, or whack on some music from some of these performers and let your kids color in. Sometimes it's really, really lovely just to do that. And then have a conversation while you're listening. Oh, what can we hear now, guys? What is it that you can hear? Can someone tell me an instrument they can hear at the moment? Oh, fantastic. What do you think that rhythm's doing? Can someone clap that rhythm for me? Like, they're the sorts of questions you could just gently ask as you're listening. So listening doesn't have to be completely passive. It can be something nice and relaxing and, just adding to it. Why not? And here you can see. So the thing is, as I said, if you've got, doesn't matter if you've got Thelonious Monk, Alice Coltrane or Bessie Smith, or Mozart or Bach or Handel or Bruno Mars or Pink in these worksheets. I said there's more than what's in here, okay, that go along with it. They all have this same look so that when you put them up on your walls, kids just go, oh, it's just another musician, just another composer. There's no hierarchy, and that's deliberately done, okay? So teaching the background of jazz music can be a fun, engaging experience for your music students. By utilising the resources that we've had discussed in this video, you can help your music students gain a deeper understanding and appreciation of jazz music, whether it's through a documentary series, maybe through the PBS one, studying different jazz instruments, maybe having a look at the Smithsonian site, or watching a live recording on YouTube. Okay, don't forget those 2 where I gave you. There are many ways to incorporate jazz music history into your music curriculum. Don't be afraid to get creative and experiment with different teaching resources to make jazz music come to life for your students. Now, I've gone through a lot today, but if you'd like some more ideas on how to make your music classes more interesting and fun, why not grab the opt-in, okay? 5 ways to make over your music curriculum download. Click that link there, okay, jooya.com/make over your music curriculum, and go and grab yourself a free copy of that that information. It's again just ideas on how to make your music curriculum come alive, because I know that from what I've seen in a lot of and talking with a lot of music teachers, it's been hard. It's been a hard couple of years, and no one wants to reinvent the wheel. So I'm giving you some ideas. If you'd like to know more, you can find more information about this blog post, obviously, and everything else about the elements of music over on my website at jooya.com. So I said I've got stacks of free information there, stacks of teaching ideas, stacks of free information about the elements of music. Go and have a look. And if you're looking to buy some resources, as I said, everything I've talked about today, that's available over in my Teachers Pay Teacher store, which is called Jooya Teaching Resources. And don't forget, if you'd like another free resource, you can get the music mind maps, which is my, honestly, the elements of music mind maps, my best downloaded resource out there. Okay. And I know that it's being used in classrooms around the world. I get messages from people. So it's really nice to know. And thank you so much for watching. So hopefully I've given you enough information to get yourself excited about teaching jazz music. the fact is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so much out there for you to use. It depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. Okay. You know, as I said, jazz music is a big beast. There's a lot out there to consume. Think about how you might want to narrow it down. What is going to appeal to your students? Okay. What sort of jazz music is going to appeal to your students, and how can you get them engaged with what is out there for them? Okay, because it should be about them, not about what you like, but what about what they like, so that they actually will enjoy the classes. Until next time, I'm Julia from Jooya Teaching Resources, and happy teaching. Bye.